Investors right now are thinking this can't possibly last forever.
Our recommended strategy is to have cash and be patient.
With markets still sitting near all-time highs, many investors are waiting on a pullback.
That's the real danger zone, late September into mid-October.
50-year Wall Street veteran Marc Chaikin says September is always the weakest month in the market.
Long-term, I'm still very bullish, but short-term cautious. Right now, I'm looking for a 4 to 8% pullback.
But that pullback signals a buying season, especially for some of the market's biggest players.
These market-leading stocks are probably twice as volatile as the market. So we could see easily 8 to 15% pullbacks.
The top 3 stocks Marc has on his watch list when that September pullback comes. Let's dive in. Marc, so great to have you back on the show. We always love having your knowledge and getting all of the information that you have from all of your experience in the market. And that is where this really important topic comes from. And that's what to expect with a pullback this time of year, especially. But where we're at right now in a market, this all-time high, this bull market, I think a lot of people, investors right now, are thinking this can't possibly last forever.
It's interesting that you put it that way because the market is making new all-time highs, particularly in the tech sector. The technology ETF, the XLK, is up almost 50% from its low in April. We've had a big move, and I've been cautious on the market now for a couple of weeks because of this seasonal pattern that you referred to. 2 things are at play here. One is markets typically peak in August, and August is usually a contrary month. So July was up, June was up, and we would expect that August at a minimum would be flat to down. But then you get into September, which has been the weakest month historically, leading to a bottom in October. Actually, October, in my view, has been the weakest month, but because you typically make a bottom in the middle of the month and then rally, when you do the statistics, it looks like September is the weakest month. And that's what people are seeing and being quoted in the press. But the reality is the bottom is usually made year in and year out in mid-October. So that's the real danger zone. It's that sort of late September into mid-October. And I think that both traders and investors need to prepare for that.
Yeah, do you expect, this is typical September, October pullback is very, very typical year after year. This year isn't quite typical because we've seen such a high after such a huge swing in April, like you mentioned. Do you think that that pullback could be maybe worse or less than usual just because of the different kind of year we've been having?
Well, right now I'm looking for a 4 to 8% pullback, which wouldn't at all break the uptrend that we've reestablished since the April bottom. I think what's creating this persistent uptrend, if you will, except for that one day on August 4th, which was a 1.6% down day, 2 things are at play here. Number one, corporate buybacks typically get put on hold during earnings season. And there's going to be over $1.2 trillion of corporate buybacks in 2025, according to Goldman Sachs. So once earnings season was over, the buybacks are back in play, and that makes a big demand boost for the market. And then these systematic strategies where when volatility contracts, there are hundreds of billions of dollars that get put to work in the market by these computer-based strategies called vol strats or volatility strategies. And that demand has been persistent in the market. That's just about done with. But remember, there's how many trillions of dollars in money market funds? Total, I think it's 6 trillion in money market funds, and for individuals, it's over 2 trillion. So there's a whole lot of reasons, including a very strong earnings season, for people to be bullish on stocks longer term.
Yeah, so a pullback, but not much of a pullback. But I think that's still, if we had that 6% drop like you're talking about, there's a better buying opportunity for investors who are looking at a lot of these stocks, especially big tech stocks right now that are at all-time highs, wondering, is this really a time to buy right now?
Well, that's a good point. And what was at play earlier this week was that the stocks that have been strongest coming out of the April bottom has saw a lot of profit taking, everything except Palantir, which we'll talk about later. There was a sort of rotation from these big name stocks like Microsoft, Amazon, and some of the stocks that really led the market to new highs, shifting into smaller cap and mid cap names that had underperformed and industry groups that had underperformed. These market leading stocks are probably twice as volatile as the market. So we could see easily 8 to 15% pullbacks if we get that big market pullback. We don't get the market pullback, it's going to be hard to see the kinds of pullbacks that would make me comfortable buying. But let me give you one example. Brinker, symbol EAT, had been on our buy list. We had a really nice profit. We took the profit 2 weeks ago because I was concerned about the volatility. And when I say we took a profit, we recommend that our newsletter subscribers sell out of the position. Brinker reported 2 days ago. The stock spiked up to 168 yesterday and then sold all the way back to 153 before closing at about 157. And that's where we recommended people get out of it 3 weeks ago. My concern, even in the strong stocks, is that the smart money seems to be taking profits on these earnings spikes. They're willing to part with these stocks. And normally I like to do that as well. And that's sort of our operative strategy here, but there is still plenty of room on the upside, in my view, between a bottom in the fall and year end into early 2026. So long term, I'm still very bullish, but short term, cautious, but looking for buying opportunities, which means you need some cash.
I know you have a list for our viewers today of the top 3 stocks you are watching for a September setback. Before we get to the first name on your list, can you walk us through just how you came up with this list and why these 3 stocks are at the top of your buy list?
In my monthly market insights, which came out this week, I've screened for stocks that had recently broken out above their upper volatility bands. People are probably familiar with Bollinger Bands. We use a slightly different band, but what that means is that there was so much demand for the stock, either based on earnings or based on persistent bullishness by Wall Street analysts. So I screened for those stocks that had bullish power gauge ratings, our 20-factor model. And I came up with a list of 15 stocks. But typically what happens after what we call a momentum breakout is you get between 5 and 10 trading sessions where the stock goes sideways to down. And we're starting to see some of those pullbacks now. And that's what I'm looking for in the 3 stocks we're going to be talking about.
And for the first time today, our viewers are going to get a free opportunity to look at that full power gauge report for all 3 of the stocks you're going to be talking about today. There's a lot of data here in this report, and you can get that full report by scanning the QR code right now or clicking the link in the description of this video. You can click that now and then follow along as Marc gives his analysis on all 3 of the stocks because you'll have that data right at your fingertips. So, Marc, let's get right into it. What's that first company at the start of your September watch list?
Well, the first stock is really my favorite trading stock, and that's Palantir. Palantir has unbelievable data analyzation capability. They use AI. They were early in using AI for a whole series of government purposes. So they're winning defense contracts right and left to analyze data in real time about troop movements and anything you could possibly think of. And just recently, with the Trump administration, is putting back up for bid 2 contracts totaling $800 million so that Palantir and Salesforce can get a chance to bid on them. So it almost feels like the deck is stacked in favor of the companies that have huge data crunching capabilities that have a connection to the Trump administration, and Palantir is one of them. Now, what am I looking for in terms of a potential buying opportunity? In case of Palantir, I want to see it drop under 150. In order to do that, the market's got to be going down. So you have to be patient with these stocks, in addition to the other 2 that we're going to talk about.
So it's a recommendation for Palantir, but a not right now recommendation. Investors right now watching this, this week, is now a time to be buying any stocks, or is it just those smaller stocks? Are there any of these larger stocks like Palantir, if you are adding, dollar cost averaging, is it okay to still be doing that right now? Or would you hold off a little bit and wait for that potential dip?
Well, there are always buying opportunities, Bridget, because individual stocks can sort of go their own way, and it's hard to say on a blanket basis, don't buy here. But right now, our recommended strategy is to have cash and be patient and see how this market plays out as we head into late August. Have a buy list, have a watch list, and monitor it every day, every week, looking for that oversold opportunity for a stock that's still in an uptrend. That's the whole key. You want stocks that are in an uptrend, bullish fundamentals. So for us, we look at the power gauge rating. And we also look at Chaikin money flow, which has been an indicator in the marketplace since 1982. So 40 plus years of identifying stocks where the smart money is buying. And all three of the stocks we're talking about have fabulous money flow right now, and including Palantir. So I want to identify the stocks that I would like to buy, be patient, make sure they're still in an uptrend, which they are, and buy the pullbacks.
What's the second stock on your list of companies that you would buy right away if that pullback comes?
Well, the second stock is what I call a hidden AI play. It's called Fabrinet, and Fabrinet's been making a new high. It's not as well known as some of the high-flying AI stocks, but what Fabrinet does is they make small precision parts with a real expertise in the optical area. And guess who needs these parts to build data centers? NVIDIA and the big mega cap 7 stocks. And Fabrinet has a proven track record of growth. In fact, we've mentioned Aurora Technologies on the show, which is a favorite long-term superpower play of ours. And Fabrinet is building the Aurora box basically for them. In other words, they're taking all the technology that Aurora has been assembling themselves, and they're going to put it into a sort of chassis, if you will, for self-driving trucks. Fabrinet on a pullback of 10 to 15%. And we've actually seen a pretty significant pullback from the high. Fabrinet reached 350 yesterday, and this morning it traded as low as 320. So these stocks are volatile. The low on Fabrinet was close to 150 in April, so the stock has more than doubled. And that's why you want to wait for 10 to 15% pullback to get into the stock. Just wait for these stocks to get oversold and then jump in.
Yeah, with this one especially, it's already trading towards that high right now. But even with a pullback, do you expect this one to see a lot of bullish momentum and a lot of future growth down the road?
Absolutely, because the growth in data centers is going to fuel demand for their small precision assembled, chassis and parts and the optics that are needed to move data quickly across data networks, and that's what Fabrinet facilitates. Fabrinet is like a facilitator. They're not a name that you're going to see in the supermarket, and you're probably not going to see them in the headlines when people talk about the big growth leaders like NVIDIA, like Palantir, but they're behind the scenes benefiting from the growth that we've been talking about.
A really good second pick on this list. So let's get to that final company that you are watching for any pullbacks that might come this September.
The third pick I have is one of the quality home builders, D.R. Horton, symbol DHI. And D.R. Horton has completed what people who follow William O'Neill and Investors Business Daily call a cup and handle. So it's made a bottom, it's sort of tested it, it's broken out. Chaikin money flow shows that smart money has been accumulating D.R. Horton for the last 4 months. So it's broken out. We had that momentum breakout above the Bollinger Band. I'm now looking for a pullback. Again, pullback in the 10 to 15% area for a stock like this, which has been in the dumps basically for a couple of years. Maybe a 10% pullback is all you're going to get. For the more high-flying names like Palantir and Fabrinet, I'd be more comfortable with a 10 to 15% pullback. But all three of these stocks should be on everybody's radar screen, in my opinion.
Yeah, with the home building stock, especially if we get that September rate cut, do you think that this stock could potentially go the other direction because it's good news for the building industry?
Well, I think it's these stocks have been going up in anticipation of that rate cut. So initially, that could trigger the pullback. Sell on the news, So buy on the rumor, sell on the news. It's very possible that people who got in early might want to take profits on the rate cut announcement, especially if the stocks initially react in a positive way. So rather than guess what the Fed's going to do, I'm going to let the technical action, which right now is very strong, confirming the bullish power gauge rating. And by the way, it's across the board for the home builders. So Pulte Homes, PHM, is a more volatile, smaller cap name in the home building space. Very similar price pattern to DR Horton. So there's another stock that you could be watching, which is also broken out. Very similar price patterns to these home builders right now.
Also very interesting, and I love that we talk about this all the time, and I have a first-time offer for our viewers today. If you wanna look at the power gauge system, because there's a lot of different metrics for all of these names that Mark just mentioned, they're the first time you can look at those for free. You can just scan the QR code or click the link in the description of this video to get a free look at the power gauge full report on all 3 of the stocks that Mark shared today. Mark, let our viewers know a little bit about what all the power gauge shows on these individual stocks and helps you track.
Well, we have 20 factors. It's 85% fundamental, only 15% technical, and it's based on working with successful institutional investors for 30 years and knowing what they looked at to buy a stock. So instead of artificial intelligence, the power gauge is based on real world intelligence. It's based on how successful investors make their buy and sell decisions every day. And they all have different styles and time horizons. Some are momentum, some are earnings, some are value investors. But the power gauge is something I distilled down 12, 13 years ago to 20 factors that reflect the way successful investors make their decisions and what they look at. So rather than looking at artificial intelligence, we've built a model. I built a model that and a system that incorporates real human intelligence, and that to me is invaluable.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about it a few different times when you've been on the channel before. So this is the first time you can get that free look at what that report actually looks like, what kind of information you'll get with that, and how useful it can be for investors. So again, follow that link in this video and you can go and check that out for free right now. Mark, thank you so much for sharing this information with our viewers. It's a lot to look ahead to in September. We've been in such a big bull run, so I think it's important to share kind of this cautionary tale to be looking ahead at what the market could be doing soon.
Yeah, and let's regroup in September and see how this roadmap is playing out. Thank you so much for having me, Bridget.
Yes, Mark, very good information and a good roadmap to follow too. And thank you for watching, everyone. Let us know what you think about these 3 stocks on a September pullback watch list, and what names would you have at the top of your watch list for any kind of a pullback we might see coming up this fall. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and as always, happy investing.